Sometimes one of the most powerful things you can do is admit what you've been doing isn't working and that it's time to start over. Whether it's a job, a relationship, a routine, or a way of thinking, that moment of recognition really takes some clarity. And it takes courage, so much courage. Even when something has clearly run its course, stepping away can feel so hard, literally impossible sometimes. So what makes it so hard? And what actually changes when we change? Did you know that 60% of people stay in unfulfilling situations because of the fear of the unknown? And that 70% say that they struggle to let go of goals that once felt right but no longer fit. It's not just you or me. The mind, your mind, my mind, we have wired our brains to hold on to established networks, even if it's not helping. Remember, the brain doesn't think. The brain can't do anything. It's just responding to your mind. It's hosting a network, a pattern of reacting. And you can change that. You can change what you're hosting. You don't have to hold on to that. So until you consciously and deliberately change it, the established network just gets fired up by your messy mind. But you don't have to live there. Your brain has an amygdala. It's this little library in your brain that responds to uncertainty like a threat. That's what it's there for, to protect you. Because that's an energy pattern when you feel all muddled up. It's an energy pattern that gets put into the amygdala and it activates and says, there's an alert, there's a threat. Your conscious part of your mind that's tidy will flag any kind of ambiguity and draw on emotional memories, and that combination tends to fire you up. These things are part of your resilience network to guide you, to guide your behavior so you don't make a dangerous mistake or whatever, you learn from something. Your brain's amygdala responds to uncertainty like a threat. That's what it's been structured for, because it's an energy pattern coming from your mind that's muddled up, so it muddles up your amygdala. The conscious, tidy part of your mind will flag any kind of muddled things, any kind of ambiguity, and it will also draw on emotional memories that helped you in the past or tripped you up in the past. And all of this is part of your resilience network to help guide you and guide your behavior and your choices. Here's the mind shift. The same pathways are capable of being changed through neuroplasticity, so you don't have to get stuck in a negative pathway. You can change them. And that's what we're talking about today. The science of starting again, and how letting go might actually activate your brain's greatest capacity for growth and optimal functioning, which is your benefit. And this isn't just about your brain, because your brain is run by your mind. Your mind is the part of you that thinks, feels, chooses, and drives how your brain rewires. You're in control, not your brain. Psychoneurobiology, which is the fancy word for the mind-brain-body connection, shows us that when your mind decides something is safe, your brain and body will also know it's safe. They will follow. I've lived this. I've had moments where the facts didn't change, but my mindset did. And everything started to shift from there. That's the real work of starting over. Signaling safety through the thoughts that you think and letting that reshape your internal world. Welcome to the Dr. Leaf Show. I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf. I'm a research and clinical neuroscientist, and I help people understand how the mind changes the brain and the body. And in today's episode, we are looking at why starting over is just so hard, but how having the courage to do so can also rewire your brain for daily clarity, resilience, and renewal. Because after all, your mind changes your brain and you are your mind. You're in control. But before we start, if you've ever hit a point where you knew something needed to change, but didn't know what to reach for next, this space is here for that. Following this show means that you'll have grounded tools and science-backed support from me, ready when life feels unclear or off track. Subscribing ensures these episodes find you right when you need them, whether it's in a quiet moment of reflection or a tough day that just needs a new perspective. So, if you want that kind of rhythm built into your week, hit subscribe and share this with someone who's standing at their own crossroads and needs help too. Listen, we all need help. Tell me if this resonates with you. You keep showing up for a relationship where your needs go unmet, but you tell yourself, it's just a phase. You go to work each day already tired, rehearsing how you'll make it through the next meeting or conversation. Maybe you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize the person staring back anymore, because somewhere along the way, your energy got rerouted into survival mode. You're holding it all up, being dependable, staying on top of things, convincing yourself you should be grateful because it feels like the responsible thing to do. But underneath that routine, your body's giving you feedback. You're forgetting things you normally wouldn't. You may be more reactive and having big emotions, more reactive than you want to be. Your mind wanders in conversations, or you just feel foggy, or even after resting. You can't seem to point to one big event, but something in you knows that this just isn't working. This is a build-up of unprocessed toxic stress. Your nervous system is trying to adapt what your mind is pumping into it. But it's stretched because it's not getting the right kind of stimulation. And when you keep investing energy into something that no longer supports you, your brain starts flagging it as a mismatch between what you're giving and what you're receiving, because your brain is quite literally wired for love. That's what the scientists tell us. This is the mind-brain-body connection in action. You, with your mind, your brilliant mind, you evaluate the meaning of what you're living through. Your brain then processes this as data, and your body responds with tension, fatigue, or restlessness, even if you haven't said a word. It's all coming from your unconscious mind. Have you ever noticed how your chest tightens around someone who's tense, even when no one's speaking? That's co-regulation. Your mind, and therefore your nervous system, are tuned into the people around you. You're generating this energy from your mind to the people around you. Change just isn't about what you choose inside. It's also about who you're around when you try to shift. Safety isn't a solo project. Nothing in life is solo. You are all impacting each other. We are all impacting each other. That's when the real question becomes impossible to ignore. What am I still holding on to? And why? What would it cost me to keep going like this? You build with your mind what you are going through into your brain. Let me say that again. Whatever you're going through is first processed and built in your mind, and then your mind puts it into your brain. Your brain hosts it. If you think about it a lot, whatever you think about grows into a pattern. Patterns feel very predictable. And even if those patterns aren't helpful, they feel safe. So initially they're a coping mechanism. And that's why leaving a known routine, even one that's totally draining you, can cause this internal resistance. Your body starts pretty much sending signals back to you. Your prefrontal cortex, which is here, becomes very activated when you plan and reflect, when you deliberately make decisions. And it'll start recalibrating when you tell it to recalibrate by introducing small little intentional changes with your mind. This new input disrupts the old assumptions, and with learning and support, those disruptions can literally rewire and you grow. You get the courage to make that move. There may be some tears along the way, but that's okay. Growth doesn't just have to live in the brain. The mind is what tells the brain what matters. And through psychoneurobiological pathways, your thoughts create shift in your hormonal, immune, and nervous systems. So it's mind, brain, and body. This is why even subtle mindset changes can eventually feel like full body recalibration. Studies actually show that 65% of people demonstrate increased amygdala activity when facing major uncertainty, which is not a bad thing because it means the amygdala is rewiring. This can feel uncomfortable, which is why 60% of adults report staying in unfulfilling circumstances due to the fear of the unknown and feeling this discomfort. What's the good news? One small change done on purpose with your brilliant mind and repeated can interrupt those network loops. Your brain starts to learn because your mind is learning and training your brain. And this feels different, and different doesn't always feel good, but it doesn't necessarily mean unsafe. Your thoughts are the architects and your brain is the construction site. If you feed it new blueprints, even small ones, it starts to build something a little different. If you've been feeling stuck in something familiar, this might be why. Chapter 3. Why letting go isn't quitting. You might still be chasing a role, a title, a version of yourself that once fit, but doesn't fit anymore. However, it's not just about the goal, it's about who you believed you had to be to get there. Adaptively disengaging from a pattern And doing an about shift isn't quitting. It's a strategic, intentional redirection. Hear me. It's how your conscious mind stops pouring good energy after bad, and you start tuning into the wisdom of your non-conscious mind. It's kind of like realizing you've been watering a plant that's already wilted. You're not giving up. You're choosing to redirect that water to something that still has roots. There's a psychological framework that can help explain this. It's called adaptive goal disengagement. Basically, that means recognizing that your energy and focus have got limits and knowing how to redirect them when the return no longer supports your well-being. This idea rests on something important. Your non-conscious has unlimited energy to work 24/7, but your brain and your conscious mind, which are only awake when you're awake, get very tired. They get drained of energy. When they're tired, you'll have limited cognitive and emotional bandwidth, and you'll lack cognitive flexibility. When your resources stay committed to what's no longer working, they're unavailable for what could work or what could grow. Simply said, you are putting your resources in the wrong direction, and this blocks you accessing intuition. Studies show that 55% of people experience a drop in toxic stress after releasing goals that are no longer attainable, and 60% report an increase in overall well-being when they redirect their focus towards more aligned, achievable objectives. So, if you're in that place where something just isn't sitting right anymore, and you just know it, shifting your energy is not abandonment. It's not failure. It's an act of conscious recalibration. And in that choice, something powerful shifts. Your energy stops leaking into something that's done and starts gathering towards what's next. Take a second. Let that land. What if you haven't been failing to finish something? What if your mind's just been asking you to stop? Some of the most impactful people you know didn't find their path until they walked away from the wrong one. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television and was fired from her first anchor job. Steve Jobs was forced out of the company he built and only later returned to lead one of the most iconic brand resurgences in history. Judge Judy didn't land her show until she was 52, after years in family court. J.K. Rowling rejected 12 times before a publisher said yes, and I've had to start over too. There were moments early in my career, and even decades into where I knew something had to shift. Projects I knew I had to let go of. Paths I walked away from. Seasons I had to completely reimagine who I was becoming. Some of the best work I've done came after I let something else go. It was hard, it was scary, cost money sometimes. There were ideas that flopped, chapters that closed, and each one taught me something that shaped what came next. Starting over isn't foreign to me. It's very familiar. Starting over is not a failure of foresight, let me assure you. It's often a great sign of wisdom. When you can start over, you're showing wisdom. It's what happens when you're brave enough to outgrow your past, loudly, quietly, or somewhere in between. So, let's talk about what actually helps your conscious mind start over. Let me give you a simple step. Novelty with structure. New stuff that's organized. The messy part of your conscious mind resists unfamiliarity and tends to fall back on what you've been doing. And the brain? Well, it does whatever the mind tells it to do. However, when you make a small intentional change with your mind and you introduce this in a safe context, this begins to build a different way of looking at things, and then tolerance comes and eventually flexibility, and that's what we need for wise moving forward. One tool that works well is called intentional disruption. You intentionally disrupt something. This means introducing minor, manageable changes to your daily patterns to get used to that. Not to create chaos, but to just give your brain a little bit of practice and new input to work with, which builds resilience networks. Why does it work? Well, because change is integrated across the mind-brain-body network. When your mind chooses something new, your brain encodes it. Your mind literally puts it into the brain to be encoded. And your body starts to stabilize around that signal. This is psychoneurobiology. Psychoneurobiology research, which is the type of research I do, confirms that behavioral shifts begin with mind-led perception. It all starts in your mind. And then your nervous system follows through. Your nervous system builds trust as it experiences safety in repetition. You've got to get your brain and body feel safe. This taps into how the mind handles prediction errors and how the brain responds. When something unexpected happens and you're calm, your mind updates your brain instead of activating old alarms. So it taps into your wisdom, updates your brain, and then old alarms are just thrown out. For example, instead of checking your phone first thing in the morning, you might sit outside for 5 minutes. Try that simple little change. Instead of defaulting to the same walking route every time, try a new path. Instead of trying to multitask, which doesn't work, pause, sit down, and eat with full attention. Enjoy your food. And if you do this for 63 days, which is the length of time it takes to build a new habit, voila, you will be on a new pathway. You would have started training your brain to be comfortable with change. Your non-conscious mind is very comfortable with change. Your conscious mind and your brain and body aren't, so you've got to help them learn. I do this too. I'll change up my morning rhythm for a few days, not because it's dramatic, but because it reminds my conscious, messy mind and my brain that I'm in charge. Small changes like this give you thinking space to breathe. That's what we need, a little bit of thinking space just to breathe, create that gap. So, try this. Pick one thing that you do automatically, that you do, and change how you approach it for the next 7 days. 7 days, the reason for 7 days is that's when we have a boost of response in our brain and our body and our mind-brain-body network that helps us stay motivated. Then reflect on day 8. What did it feel like to do something different or do something differently? Did your thoughts shift? Did your body respond? How did your thoughts shift? How did your body respond? This isn't about reinventing everything all at once. It's really about showing your brain, remember you're the boss, your mind's the boss of your brain, that not all change equals danger. And building the wiring that proves it, kind of like going to the gym and exercising. That's literally what you're doing with your brain. Or training an AI bot to do something that you need done. It takes time. There's a 7-day intentional disruption worksheet waiting for you in the show notes. Just one small shift at a time is going to change your ability to see the things that are keeping you stuck and move forward differently. And I say this with such excitement because I had to do a major shift last year in our company. And at the time it felt terrible, but now we're so excited. It was the best thing. But remember, for lasting change, you do need to practice this for at least 63 days because the first 7 days just get you going. To create stable change in your life, you're going to have to do it for a full 63 days. To help you, I have my Neurocycle app that you can find on Google, iTunes. Starting over isn't just about erasing who you've been. I want you to really remember that. So starting over isn't just erasing who you've been. You can never actually get rid of anything that's happened. You can change how those stories are wired in your mind-brain-body network and therefore how they play out into your future. So you're changing what they look like inside of you. So it's all about updating what no longer fits and adding all that learning and growing. If you've wired it in, which you have, with your mind, you can wire it out. You're in control, guys. Your job isn't to fight your biology, it's to collaborate with it. And I'm trying to teach you how to collaborate with your biology. And you are your mind. That's where the brilliance is. You don't have to overhaul everything all at once either. But when you choose one place to begin again, you send a message to yourself. Hey, we're doing this differently now. And this is good. And you know what? Sometimes what shifts everything isn't a huge, massive breakdown. It's a little whisper. Just noticing, this doesn't fit anymore. Something's wrong. What they're saying doesn't work. This doesn't feel right. There's something wrong in this meeting, or there's something wrong, and you can't quite put your finger off. But if you take that pause, you can dig down deep because it's in your non-conscious, and your non-conscious is telling you. Just noticing that this doesn't fit anymore is enough to start loosening the grip of the routine. That pause, it's not indecision. It's you activating the network so you can change it. It's intelligence. It's not indecision. It is intelligence. Let me say that again. That pause, it's not indecision. It's intelligence. It's the moment you stop running on auto and start paying attention again. You've been doing your best to hold it together. You followed the routine. You stayed in the rhythm. I know all about this. that once made sense because it felt familiar or responsible or simply easier than stopping to reevaluate. But there is a point where even momentum becomes its own weight. When you're no longer choosing the path, you're just walking it because this is what we always do. Just pausing to say, let's stop, this isn't working for me anymore, is an act of presence and huge courage to actually make the change. But this awareness, it creates a real shift. It activates the mind-brain-body network. Neuroscientifically, it brings that network into a state of malleability, which means it can be changed. So the awareness creates a real shift in your mind-brain-body network, in your psychoneurobiology. It tells your whole being, mind, brain, and body, that you're not just reacting, you're actually beginning to respond. You're not stuck in the loop. You are witnessing it. And that means that you have the capacity to change it. Sometimes starting over isn't a leap, it's a slow turn, like rerouting a ship. You don't always notice the shift until you look back and see, oh gosh, whole new horizon, whole new perspective. That moment, quiet as it is, marks the beginning of a new direction. It's the hinge between depletion and deliberate choice. It's the space where something different can begin. Okay, so let's wrap this up here. If you've been telling yourself that starting over is a setback, I really want you to remember from the bottom of my heart, some of the most fulfilled people you admire did not find their purpose before they started over. They found it because they started over. Here's a place to start. Name one thing that feels out of sync. Change one habit tied to it. Give yourself 7 days to notice what shifts. Then spend the next 56, because you've got to go for 63 days, rewiring the new habit. You're moving forward, you're directing neuroplasticity, you're taking control, you're telling your conscious mind, guiding it like a parent guides a child, and you are then wiring in the correct patterns and making the different parts of the brain and the body work properly. So if you're doing that, you're not stuck. You're already starting over in a way your brain can recognize and your body can trust. I've worked with thousands of people across decades, and the ones who found real change weren't always the loudest or most certain. They were the ones that were willing to try something new, even quietly. That's how you rewire your life, quietly and consistently. Consistency is really key, and intentionally. Intentionality is so important because you're in control. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to wait for some big sign to come up in your life, some big neon sign or something. You just have to be listening to the part of you that knows something needs to shift. You've got everything you need to help you through life in your depths of your non-conscious mind. Your wisdom is there. It's waiting for you. That little whisper, it's the start of everything. So even just listening to this episode, pausing, reflecting, naming what needs to shift, isn't passive. It's how you're already starting the new wiring. You chose to listen. You can choose to apply this. If this has helped you feel a little bit more grounded in a choice you've been weighing or something that you just knew that needed to change, subscribe. Let the space be a rhythm, not a reaction. And also, if you know someone who's standing in that hard in-between place, send this podcast their way. I'll be back next week with more tools, more science, and more language for what you've been carrying. And if you've ever wrestled with whether to walk away, rebuild, or try again, my new book, Help in a Hurry, was written exactly for moments like this. It's your neuroscience-based, emotionally honest toolkit for knowing what to do when life blindsides you and how to actually move forward. It officially drops August 5th. But if you pre-order now, you'll get over $900 worth of exclusive bonuses. Just head to helpinahurrybook.com to claim it. That's helpinahurrybook.com. Don't wait. This is the sign you've been looking for. We'll be back next week with more tools, more science, and more language for what you've been carrying. Until then, stay aware, stay flexible, and give your mind room to reset.